Hey everybody, and welcome back to our channel where we are showing you all the great things about Kansas City. We've got a really fun episode today because we are kicking off our series about breweries in Kansas City. We may even do some distilleries too if we see some cool ones. So
absolutely,
we wouldn't be doing
alcohol in Kansas City.
Yes, we wouldn't be doing this series justice if we didn't start off with the big dog, Boulevard Brewing Company.
Cheers. What's up, guys? I'm Taylor, this is Curtis, and as much as we love doing these videos for you guys, which we do, we got to go on
It's a lot of fun.
beer tours.
It's a lot of fun.
What we really love is helping you with your real estate needs. So if you want to go look at a house or want to sell your house, reach out to Curtis. His information's right here. And if you need help financing, refinancing, buying a new house, please reach out to me. Don't forget, always subscribe and click the bell button so that way you can get notified of all of our new episodes that come out.
Awesome. Let's go check out Boulevard. All right, so whenever you drive downtown and you're looking for a boulevard, it's just on the outskirts of the crossroads, and you show up to the campus. They call it a campus because there's multiple buildings over like a 3-block area, and you park your car, and there's 3 main buildings that you'll notice that you can really go view as the public. 2 of them are the Brewhouses, which we'll get to that in a minute. Those were on the tours. The main one is called the Tours and Recreation Building, and you walk up, it's this really tall, skinny brick building, and you can tell it's got multiple levels. When you walk into the main level, you start off with some kind of historical facts about Boulevard and beer in general. There's a great gift shop. I mean, you can get every beer that Boulevard makes and sells. They've got t-shirts, hats, magnets, all that fun stuff. Then you go up to the second floor. That's what they call the beer hall. Pretty self-explanatory. That's where they sell the beer, and you can drink it right there, just like it's a normal bar. Huge wall of taps, all the beer that Boulevard makes, and then off to the side, they have what they called a
Test taps
or experimental kitchen, whatever you want to call it. They had probably 5 or 6 different taps of, one thing that you'll see is that one of their most famous beers is called Space Camper.
Yep.
And in that second floor in the beer hall, they had a camper, a miniature camper.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a photo booth. So you can hop in there, take some cool photos. You can also get food there. We had the German bratwurst, which was like a bratwurst with beer, cheese, and a pretzel. It was really good.
Yep. It's not even like a bun, it's more like a croissant.
Like a corn dog.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Corn
like
dog.
a corn dog.
You can hang out on the beer hall as long as you want. It's just like a normal bar anywhere else you would go. There's a 3rd floor, that's all the offices. If you go to the 4th floor, they call it the rec deck. And normally you can rent that out for company events or parties, things of that nature. But they've got a bunch of games up there. They have foosball. They had shuffleboard. I'm talking like the legit on the floor with sticks, shuffleboard. There were people up there playing it. You can go to Boulevard and spend all day there in the tour and rec building and definitely not get bored.
The other cool thing about the rec deck is it is 21 and over, so there's no kids ever. So if you're like, hey, I want to get away from my kids, like go to the rec deck.
That's where you start this whole experience. That's where we started. And as soon as we were done checking out the tour and rec building, it was time to get our tour started.
Yeah, so we started the tour back on the 1st floor, and actually behind the gift shop, there's another little beer hall, if you will.
Tasting room.
Tasting room.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's where you start the tour. You start off with your first beer. So make sure you get there about 10-15 minutes early before your tour time so you can get that full beer experience. After we start our tour, we walk over to Brewhouse 1. And in Brewhouse 1, we started off with tasting another beer. And so we tried the Tank 7, and we spent about an hour just really like indulging in this beer. We learned how to taste it, how to smell it, what the different tastes and smell are, why we get them, what goes into making the beer and making it that way.
I've never spent more time thinking about the beer that I was drinking.
Yes.
It was really cool.
We literally spent an entire hour with this one beer, and then at the end we tasted it again and got completely different results because the beer had been sitting there for an hour and warmed up.
Yeah.
So that was quite the experience in and of itself. Then after that, we took the tour of Brewhouse 1, and this is the original equipment that they used when starting Boulevard Brewery back in 1989. So this barrel is no longer used for everyday beer. They do use it for all their test beers.
Oh, that's right.
So it's still in use, but for all of your stuff on the shelf, it's not what that's for. So it did, though, brew every single beer Boulevard had up until 2005, and then in 2006, they expanded to Brewhouse 2. All right, so after going through Brewhouse 1, we walk into Brewhouse 2. And so you walk in, chat with the receptionist, and then you walk up a flight of stairs, and there's a tasting room, and then there's also a reception area that you can host weddings, office parties, anything of the sort. So we went into the tasting room, obviously.
Another tasting room.
Had a beer, yes.
We're on like our third or fourth tasting room by
Yes,
this point.
that's correct, yes. And so right behind that is the actual brewing tanks or process.
Yeah, the new ones.
The brand new ones as of 2006, but the ones that make it much more efficient and much quicker.
Right, so that in Brewhouse 1, they just had the 1 barrel fermenter. You go to the Brewhouse 2, now they've got 5. So capacity is much larger, efficiency is much larger. They can do different types of beer a lot quicker. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, and another thing about just the process is you can just do those beers simultaneously instead of having to finish an entire beer, clean it out. They can start the beers right after each other. So just makes everything much faster. So from there, we walk across the catwalk and we look at there's 7 fermenting tanks. And so the cool thing about the fermenting tanks is they're huge and you can store a ton of beer, probably even more than 2,000 pounds of beer in these at one time. And so we asked our tour guides, well, how much is this? And he's like, oh, it's so many barrels. And I don't know about you, but like, I don't know how many bottles is in a barrel.
Taylor whips out his phone and starts doing the math to figure out how many bottles of beer are in this big ass tank over here. And the tour guide was like, well, I've never had anybody do that before.
It's actually 198,400 12-ounce bottles in each fermenting tank.
Yeah, great.
So then we go back over to Brewhouse 2. And Brewhouse 2 not only, like I said, has the brew house, but it also has the reception area. And yeah, the bottling can do 500 bottles per minute.
That's a lot of beer.
Yes, that is a lot of beer.
So that pretty much wrapped up the Brewhouse tours. You went back over to the Tour and Rec Center. You go back to the original tasting room, taste some more beer, some more corks, which are their hard seltzer lines. And then when you're done with the tasting room, you walk through the gift shop, of course.
Yep.
But you get a little 20% coupon. You can use that for merchandise or beer. And then that pretty much wraps it up. It was a great experience. I would do it again. Actually, I would go back again and they had 3 different tours, right?
That's right. So there's, they call it the public tour. So that's just an hour long, really just tour of the facility.
Right.
The one we went on is the unfiltered tour. And so it's about 2 hours long. That gets you the tasting of the beer and the tour. And then the final one, the third one, is called the Smokehouse or Smokestack tour. And so that one is the unfiltered tour plus a food pairing at the end. That was your first time going on the tour. That wasn't my first time at Boulevard, but definitely the first time on the tours and first time seeing the beer hall and the rec room. So highly recommend it. Even if you live in Kansas City and you're like, oh, I know what Boulevard is, go check it out. I mean, just can't recommend it enough. So
what was your favorite fact that you learned while you were there?
Yes, so probably the most interesting thing was how Tank 7 came about. So they were testing out a new beer, had it in the fermenting tank, and tasted it, hated it. So they added some stuff and they ended up loving it.
Yeah.
And they knew exactly what they added so they can replicate it. That was a big part of it.
It's important.
But it just so happened to be in fermenting Tank 7 that they did this. So hence the name.
That's how Tank 7 came
7.
about.
That's right.
I think the coolest thing that I learned was that the guy that started Boulevard back in 1989, in order to really get the facility off the ground, he convinced his wife to sell their house and move into the brewery in the upper floor. That allowed him to have the money to expand inside that original brew house, and obviously success exploded. And then eventually, when they were able to, they actually went and bought that original house back. They live in there to this day, and it's only like a mile from the brewery. They didn't tell us exactly where it was, but that was really cool to know that they went back and bought that original house.
That's awesome. Yeah, and the original founder is around all the time.
Yeah.
The tour guides were fantastic and said, yeah, he's here regularly, still a big part of Boulevard Brewery, and us as Kansas Cityans and lifelong Kansas Cityans, like it's been a part of us with everything we do. Absolutely.
Very cool experience. Highly suggest it. If you got some time on a Friday or Saturday, go check it out. But I think that wraps it up for us. So If you guys want to see more about Kansas City and what we have to show for you, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell button so that you get notified every time a new video comes up. Thanks.